Welcome to Hello Port Hueneme. I'm your host, Tom Dunn, and today we are doing a combination of Citizens Forum and the Mayor's Corner. And with me today are the City Council Manager, Rod Butler. Welcome, Rod. And the Mayor of Port Hueneme, Will Berg. Welcome, Will.
Thank you very much.
Uh, what we're going to do today is there's been some things going on in the city. We've had council meetings, and I just have them here in front of me, and we're going to go over them and get your feedback and reaction to what's been going on so we can let the people know that we're doing one of two things. We're trying to find a solution, or we're going to tell you what's the hurdle that maybe we can't do it, and if we can't, give you hopefully an observation and an answer that will let you know that we tried. So the first thing I want to do is talk about smelly air in Port Hueneme. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Will, myself, Stephen Gama, and John Sharkey went to the Ventura County Board of Supervisors. And Kelly Long, our supervisor in District 3, was making a request of the board to waive a $2,000 fee that they wanted Robert Brommer and the Hueneme Foundation to pay to put up some sensors in some area, like land or water or something. Do you know what it is, Will?
Well, they're called arrays, and an array has three separate sensors on it that measures different items within the air. And there are approximately 4, maybe 5 arrays that have been installed at this time. It was a county district, and I'm not sure, I can't recall the name of the district now. And so while it was within the city of Hueneme, this is an area that had control over that, a district had control over it. So a fee was being charged to erect this one last array. We're all up, set, and running now, and we hope to make progress and be able to report some concrete information back to the authorities in Oxnard and elsewhere, whatever it takes.
Yeah. Kelly was instrumental in letting the supervisors know what was going on in Port Hueneme and how this was really beneficial to the residents who've been affected by it. And Robert Brommer of the Hueneme Foundation sent out a memo, said, "Thank you, Supervisor Kelly Long," and a big shout out to her for helping forward the Hueneme Foundation sensor program. And where that stands now is that all of the sensors, well, within a week will be in place, like you said, and there will be a coordination of the sensors to get them fine-tuned because they're in a 270-degree arc, and they will be able to cross-pollinate or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Where the smells are coming from, what they are, and it measures the wind and the everything, so it can pinpoint where the violation, if there is one, is coming from. So we're moving forward on that, and we'll keep you updated on all that.
Yes, great.
The next thing was, this was at the last two city councils. We had 2 people come to open forum, and again, thanks to Citizens Forum and stuff, that's not as many people coming to that as used to. It used to be 5, 6, 7, 8 people with problems and issues, and we've taken care of a lot of them here with explanations from the mayor and the city manager. And these 2 gentlemen came the last 2 meetings and spoke about the conditions at Miranda Park and the problems down at Ormond Beach with the homeless and things that are going on there. Now, the Ormond Beach issue is a totally different issue from Miranda Park. That is in Oxnard. It does affect Port Hueneme a little bit, and there is movement of the homeless, and there are 3 or 4, again, like you were saying, Will, agencies just at Ormond Beach that control that property. And we walked down there on Saturday at Ormond Beach, 4 or 5 of us, and you can't tell where one thing starts and where another one doesn't. There used to be signs up, sort of. There aren't anymore. It's a bird sanctuary. It's California Coastal. It's 4 or 5 agencies, and so that's going to be a whole different avenue that we're going to have to, go in and, much like we are with the smelly air, work with Oxnard, because this does affect Fort Hueneme also. But what the two gentlemen talked about at Miranda Park, and I have a copy here of what they were talking about. I went over and did a video of Miranda Park and looked for the things that they were talking about over there. And here's a copy that I made. I'm going to read off this one, Will. These are the things when I walked around over there that I saw. The first one was there are going to be LED lights and security cameras going in, and I have a question into Don Villafana, the Public Works Department head, and he's going to get back to me. Have you guys heard the latest of whether they're in yet, or because this was during the daytime, so we couldn't tell?
Right. Should be within the next 60 days. Those will be up, installed, and operational.
Okay, so that's going to be a big benefit, especially at night with the lights and the security camera, and they're also going to be doing that at the beach. There are 2 ball fields there. In the past, they were used for organized games by various leagues and recreational divisions and stuff, and they're in really, really bad condition to the point that they're hardly used. Every once in a while, some team will come over and have a practice, and but I have heard and saw that they do it for a little while and then leave. A kid or two would trip in a gopher hole. The batter's box is about 1.5 foot deep, where there's never been any dirt put in there. And if you're a 7, 8-year-old kid, that's a pretty deep hole when you take a step and throws you off balance, and it's dangerous. If you slid into it, you'd just stop in the hole. You wouldn't make it to the plate. The pitcher's mound, again, for the pitcher steps, big hole there. Again, take a kid's knee out in a flash. The field is basically impossible to play on because the ground is so uneven. The infield is all dirt. The outfield, there are gopher holes, or they have piled dirt over gopher holes so you don't trip in them, but the dirt is about that high. So again, that creates a major problem. Not only for people out there maybe playing soccer or football, not football, the softball or baseball, but my wife has taken our granddaughter over there, and after 2 times she said, I'm not going back anymore because it's just unsafe for the kids to run around. They can go to the kids' park there, which I mentioned in here is fabulous. It's colorful and it's surrounded by a fence, and the parents are able to watch their kids. And the grass was at least that tall in the outfield. And I was back over there yesterday, and I saw some workers, and I did ask them how often do they, mow the fields, and it's every 2 weeks. They come on Tuesday. But with the summer and stuff, grass can grow pretty high in 2 weeks. I know if we miss 1 week of mowing at Surfside 4 because of rain or something, it's a heck of a job to mow it the next time and have to gather up all that grass and stuff. There's a lot of dry areas out there. We should have, that was common a year or so ago when we had all the drought. The whole field out there was brown. But now there are, it's half green, half brown. So I'm questioning, what's happening with the water. Let's see. The tennis and pickleball courts were refinished. I think back around last September, and they spent the money to not resurface them, but to rebuild them, I believe, to make them quality enough where they could continue to hold some tennis tournaments that had been held there before, I believe.
Yes.
And so we went and looked at the courts, and the courts are already showing cracks in them. And I thought the whole purpose of the redo and the amount of, they spent a couple $100,000 in that, and on the basketball courts, to refinish those to where they would be maintained. But there are a number of cracks and several large ones in there, and I think that needs to be looked into before it becomes, we have couple $100,000 in work and it's gone in a year. Uh, because people, again, running on cracked surfaces is not good. The pickleball especially, a lot of older people, our age and even older, I saw playing over there. That could be very dangerous for them. Let's see, on the basketball court, the basketball court is pretty good. I don't know why,
Yeah, they rebuilt that one right down to the dirt.
Did they?
Yeah, poured a whole new.
All right, so they redid the park. I'm assuming they put new goals and backboards up, but 3 of the 4 nets were almost just gone, and if you've ever played basketball, shooting at just the round rim is no fun.
Not such a good idea.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should look at metal nets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I've seen those.
They have,
Yeah,
most outdoor parks
Rest-proof.
Yeah.
do have that. Another problem, it was more so with the basketball courts and the tennis courts, but there's a lot of dead or overhanging dead branches, trees that need to be trimmed back. They're dropping their leaves and little nuts and whatever they are, I don't know, onto the courts. And again, that's dangerous. It's not good for the court. And it looks like the trees haven't been trimmed in quite a while. Visually, it's just not, appetizing when you put all of this together. On the baseball and softball field, the screen behind home plate, it's a metal mesh screen, big holes in that. Looks like it hasn't been touched in years. There is we only saw one drinking fountain. Didn't go looking, but this one was right by the concession stand. It was plugged up. The water had very little pressure coming out of it. And I was there at 11 o'clock on a Saturday, and there were only about 10 people in the park. Both of the gentlemen that spoke at the city council meeting mentioned that they remember going back, let's just say, 8, 9 years ago. So that park was thriving with recreation, families coming there, having recreational baseball teams and organized sports, soccer and stuff going on there. They would like to see it return to that way. Be like, it could be as nice for the community as we're trying to make the beach. And there's no picnic tables, there's no barbecues or anything. So I wanted to just bring this attention because 2 people had taken the time to come up and talk to you guys. And I'm going to write a story. I got a video already done. And once I talk to Don Villafano, the head of the Public Works, and you guys, I will have a complete, I think, story that the people will be interesting to hear. I've gone on too long. But
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
you're on a roll there.
But there's a lot over there that needs to be addressed. Would you guys like to comment on what you may know about the situation?
We know everything that you just spent 10 minutes talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that we have people working on the beach, but we can't necessarily take them off the beach from Miranda Park. If we put people at Miranda Park, perhaps we won't have them on the beach. In other words, there's only so many people. We're addressing these concerns. We're aware of them, painfully aware of them. We've been aware of them for some time now. We, as a city, will continue to do our best. We can pull people off other jobs, and then we have to set priorities. Miranda Park gets a lot of attention, but not much priority. And perhaps we should start putting our priorities into Miranda Park, and to the neglect of other places maybe. We have to find that happy balance somewhere. Painfully aware of the changes that need to be made in the cleanup, and we appreciate you reminding us of these things that need to be done. We will get to them as soon as we possibly can. We can ask our Mr. Villafana again at our next council meeting, but then that's a week and a half away. I don't think I want to wait another week and a half. Perhaps we should start today, tomorrow. I myself am very concerned about wanting to go ahead and re-turf the whole grass area. That would probably involve doing a gopher hunt, because last week, Councilmember Gama and I walked all through Miranda Park and saw everything that you so carefully described for us. And without, again, having the staff, having the infrastructure that we need to correct that, these things are going to be corrected typically one at a time as we get to them. The LED lights that we mentioned, probably half of them might already be installed.
Yeah.
But nobody said anything about the ones that got installed, just the ones that haven't been
Yeah,
installed.
I thought those were coming in around sometime in April.
Not fast enough.
Well, one of the things, the reason I did this, and you mentioned it at the city council meeting, when the people come up and talk about it, you said the city council can't respond to them. And so I just want to make sure that, the people like to know what's going on, and here we get your response, which is fabulous, and
We're
glad
aware,
to hear it.
we just, we're on it, but we know it's too slow. And there's other parks. What do you hear about Boker Park these days?
Me?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody say anything
Oh,
about
okay.
it.
Anybody take
Yeah.
a walk around Boker Park recently?
Yeah, one of my messages to folks is, especially what I call the done disciples, so the people, the people that watched the Mayor's Corner,
Mhm.
and community, which forum?
Citizens,
Citizens Forum.
Citizens
Sorry.
Forum.
you're the star of it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know the name. Yeah.
We're a loose group here.
I like to remind people that the city limits of Port Hueneme do extend north of Hueneme Road. So we totally agree with your assessment of some of the needs at Miranda, but we have other parks, like the mayor's pointing out. We have a Little League program right now at Bubbling Springs Park that currently has 300 kids participating in that Little League program, both Port Hueneme residents and residents of primarily Oxnard, maybe a few Venturas or Camarillos. So when we think about allocating resources to improving our parks, Miranda needs to be right up there as a priority, but here you've got a park just to the north of it where we've got an active program with 300 kids currently participating. So we need to have a larger discussion about all of our parks. The good news is, with the city's improving financial fortunes, especially in the general fund, I think there's going to be money over these next few years to invest in some of those things that we have not had over the last 5, 7, 8 years. One of the first things that got cut when the major cuts happened with previous councils in 2011, 12, 13, 14 was not only park programming, but park maintenance. So that really took a hit, and now we're living with the results of that. I'm not criticizing those past councils necessarily, because they had to find somewhere to cut, and these park programs come out of the general fund, which is where the problem was. So good news is I think we're on a better path now, more sustainable general fund financial path. Some of that money should flow to parks, and I think Miranda will benefit from that. But I think the message you're hearing from both of us is we want to look at our whole park system and make sure that everyone gets a little bit of the wealth.
As a matter of fact, the city manager and I were discussing just this topic earlier today, how the budget is going to impact what we're going to be able to do. We have more revenue coming into the city than previously has been. And we've discussed the option of again, hiring more staff and more city workers, because they're needed too. We have to cover the entire city, and we understand the problems at Miranda Park. We've got to get to them. We need more staff. We need more investment in that area. We're on it. We're going to get to it as fast as we can. I wish we could tell you we have a plan next week
Right.
to address every one of those issues. And unfortunately, we don't have that.
Right.
But the Public Works, they're very aware of this.
I also went to Bubbling Springs Park, and they have 4 fields there. 2 of them are fairly in good shape.
Yeah.
And they did, when I was there, they had games going on. There's
Yeah.
2 other fields that haven't been used, or grass is really tall. But so I'm glad to see that is the little leaguers have someplace nice to play. in the survey I did a couple months ago, two of the beach and the parks were in the top 5 of
Right.
things that people were considering. And hopefully with the cannabis industry donating to city projects, with REACH working on recreation and education and everything, trying to raise money for city things. I agree with you that as soon as it comes in, I'm pretty sure you guys will look at it, and the people would be glad to know that that is on your agenda coming down the road.
Definitely is on the agenda.
Okay. Couple other things that went on. Uh, the city council has approved the Citizens Advisory Commission, and you met and had one change was made and okayed, which was going from 10 board members down to 5, and there are applications available for people to apply for the board member positions, and the deadline is coming up fairly soon. I put it in next door Fort Hueneme and Port Hueneme News, and hopefully we get enough where we can choose from. Do you have anything else?
I believe we have applications coming in.
Yeah,
don't we, Rod?
we've had a
Yes, we do.
decent supply, but we
Good
encourage
group.
more to continue to apply.
Well, the big thing is once we get the board members, then the really important part of the commission is the committee chairman and the committees that we have, because they will be working in, we'll have a park and rec, which there already is one, we'll just incorporate it in there, and the people who are really interested can work on those committees and, get information that you guys like to know, or send you stuff like this, and all the different committees, the HOAs, and we'll probably have to have one on homeless that, can do a lot of legwork for you guys, and get information in that will help you maybe work faster on stuff, and so we need to really publicize once the board is there, publicize for people to sign up for various committees, maybe have a community meeting where we can explain the details of it. But I did hear a number of people say that, hey, they would really be interested in the committees and stuff once we're rolling.
I agree.
Okay. Also, Measure U. You have proposed a committee for that, an oversight committee, I believe it is. Would you like to comment on where you stand on that?
Yeah, so that one, I believe the application period has closed now, but we would still encourage people to submit applications if they're interested, because there may be vacancies down the road. That's also a 5-member commission or committee with those members appointed by the city council, one each by each member of the city council. And those meetings will actually begin this summer. The council will take action first to decide which 5 people they want to appoint, and then the first meeting will come shortly after that. So that one is a focused committee looking just at the use of the Measure U local sales tax, excuse me, sales tax monies that were approved by the voters back in November 2018.
And they will basically be meeting quarterly. Is that timed with, or you get quarterly reports from the state on how much money you've gotten in, and then you guys do a quarterly, hey, here's where we're going to
The
correct this?
tax kicked in on April the 1st.
That's right.
I believe, and that's at the end of the first quarter. So now we are, that tax is being collected now. We should get our first indication, and check for that matter, at the beginning of the second quarter,
Yeah.
or the beginning of the third quarter.
Yeah.
For the second quarter.
You got it.
Has the council and staff, it's been a while since the election, and it was on the forefront of our minds of there were general areas that you were going to spend the money on, and
Miranda Park.
it's one.
Yeah, we
Yes.
Is
yeah.
there, when the first quarter or the first review for the Measure U committee comes up, will you have specific places where you say, we want to spend this money, and then they'll track that as it goes along, and then every quarter you'll add another, oh, we want to get this done, and that's how that would work?
I would imagine they would continue, we would, in both groups, would continue to identify those areas in need of more investment. And as we grow our staff a little bit more and start counting the investment dollars. We can't spend them before we get them.
Right.
So we have to see what it is that's coming in. And then, yes, we'll be developing a program for spending those dollars in a way that enhances the city for everybody to enjoy.
I think it's a great idea. The state requires it now because I guess a lot of communities going back, I don't know how many years, sort of let some of the money slide in directions that it wasn't really intended for. So this will be a good a way for everybody to know, and the public will know, and where their money is going to. Have you? I think wasn't there a projection of something like 900,000 a year?
Actually, it's double that. So Measure W, which the voters approved back in 2008, was generating about 900,000 to $1 million a year. That one's still on the books. There's no sunset on that. And then in 2018, the voters approved a full cent, an additional full cent. So that we're currently projecting will be between 1.8 and $2 million a year.
Wow.
And that's all general fund revenue. We may even, if we get more retailers, restaurants coming in, and then as the cannabis industry grows, that number could increase over time to 2.1, 2.2, and beyond. So we could also take a hit if we get another 2008 style economic downturn and people slow down on it or fall back on their spending. It could go down a little bit. But
What we're seeing right now, though, is, for example, business at the Ralph's Shopping Center. I forget the proper name for the shopping center, though, but I actually had a citizen, a neighbor, said she doesn't shop at Ralph's anymore. It's too crowded.
That parking lot is
And
full all the
Yeah.
time.
The parking lot is full. I said, that's great news.
Yeah.
Not that you don't shop there, but that it's too busy now. Because, again, that's generating more of those tax dollars for
Yeah.
us
Well, they have
to be able to utilize.
I did a survey a little over a year ago, and there were quite a few empty places
And
there.
that number's dwindled.
Right,
Yeah.
it has. There's a lot of new little boutique restaurants, specialty shops and stuff that have gone in there. Because I go to the Navy Credit Union down
Oh,
at
yeah.
the far end,
Mhm.
and it's hard to find a parking place there.
yeah.
And you try to back out and get in the flow of traffic that's going back onto Channel Islands. It's very difficult. So
It's a good problem for us to
Right.
have to deal with.
we can
Right.
afford some basketball nets.
But
now.
it is a
Let's see.
problem.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, another issue that came up, which this council spent almost a good hour on, which I thought was real interesting. No, it's not the credit card one. I don't even want
Oh,
to
yeah.
go there. No, this was about the trees, and we have the exact same problem at Surfside 4 that the city does. They were required to plant a lot of coral trees, which is probably one of the worst trees you can plant, in that they grow like crazy. The roots are huge, and they all now are about at their lifespan, where we're having, they're starting to die. And the big point made, and I want you guys to address this as it went on, and a lot of good ideas, but how to address this is that the main problem is we're tearing up the sidewalk. And the question is, do you cut down the tree and put another tree there, or do you cut down the tree, take the roots out, fix the sidewalk, and put the proper type of tree there that would be good and not tear up the sidewalk in another 5 years?
We do both of that. We are going to be taking those trees out. It's a risk management issue for us in many cases. The coral trees, they're beautiful. It's going to be sad to see them go. But yes, when they get too mature, it is time to replace those trees. And that's important for us to understand, that these trees are being replaced, just not removed. We'll have to do work on sidewalks and root systems, and the arborist will be able to help us in selecting the next tree to go in. It's not just identifying a diseased tree or a tree that's too mature, that's lived its lifespan. We can see that ourselves, obviously, but it's still handy to have that trained professional help us choose that next generation of trees. I mean, Hueneme has been awarded awards for being a tree city, and as you know, in many of the HOAs, when they remove a tree, city policy is to ask them to replace that tree. It's not removal, it's a replacement. And in my HOA, it's the same story. They're replacing trees. We have a lot of new ones right now, and it looks different when you got new trees in. The old ones are actually quite pretty.
You're talking about an arborist. Sometime before I really got involved at Surfside 4, we had these big, huge eucalyptus trees, and I was afraid they were going to be blown over, especially when you have a lot of rain. And they were just bushy and full, and we brought in a guy who was really good, and he said, you've got to trim those from the inside out, not just cut them back, and you still have all that heavy leaves in there. And it was amazing what he was able to save the trees. Now, he could say, hey, you should put something else there, but the way he trimmed them, the air just goes through them now. And
In many cases, yes, that extends the life of the tree,
Right.
and we understand that too. So, again, we need to replace a lot of trees, but many of them can still have quite a long lifespan, another 4 or 5 years or more even, if they're well taken care of.
any comment from your side of the?
Yeah. Just one of the things that came out during the council's discussion was that we'll be coming back soon to the city council, and these all be public meetings that people can attend, with a discussion of whether to change any of our current policies about tree maintenance and tree removal and tree replacement. As part of an overall discussion the council's been having about our zoning code and our property maintenance codes. So that's going to be an opportunity for people to participate and speak their piece about whether we should change our current policies. And again, the broken record, I would say, with our financial picture improving, again, tree maintenance, urban forestry, all that stuff is general fund funded, and it's really suffered over the last 5 to 8 years because of the budget woes. But things are turning around now, and we should have some money to start investing, not just in the trees themselves, but Public Works Director Don Villafana mentioned Monday night he's going to start, for the first time in probably 6 or 7 years, a programmed concrete sidewalk replacement program for those areas that have been impacted by trees or other things that have lifted the concrete or cracked it. So that's something we would hope to be doing on a annual basis throughout the city, starting with the worst, most badly damaged concrete first.
For a long time, we've had to strategically neglect
Yep.
much of what we've done in the city. Now it's time for us to, again, become more aggressive and replace, replant, repaint, rebuild, replace, and we're on our way to do that.
I will grant you that from what I hear from the city of Ventura and the city of Oxnard, all the letter to the editors, all the stories in the paper about the potholes in the streets is just 10 times worse than what we have here with the sidewalk in the park. So
Yes, that
we
is.
could be thankful because the pavement, the streets here are just immaculate.
Yeah.
And people love driving.
Yeah,
on
our
them.
Public Works Department over the years has done a very good job of staying on top of the streets and doing maintenance and major work when necessary. And I've heard several people, even though I'm not a Ventura County guy by history, several long-term Ventura County people have told me that it's been known for years, really, that some of the best maintained streets in Ventura County are here in Fort Hueneme.
Hey, it's nice. You get in Fort Hueneme, you know your suspension is still good.
That's right.
in Oxnard, you have no idea. And their main roads are still, you'd think they would do those first, but they're getting there slowly. But
They were just working on Channel Islands
Islands, yeah,
Boulevard
that
for
needed
the
it.
last couple of weeks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And many of the emails that I've been seeing circulating are asking, when will they ever finish?
Well, it has to be done. Another issue, which I'm not going to spend 10 minutes on, but you guys might want to say something about it, is there were 2 lawsuits that were adjudicated this week. Who would like to step in and explain that? And I'm sure all the residents, I don't know if they've forgotten about them, because it all started back a year and a half, 2 years ago. So would you explain to them how that involves the city?
Go ahead.
Sure,
Rob,
sure.
take that. No, it's good news.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
good news.
So yeah, some people may have caught the Ventura County Star article, and two different issues. One was a claim that never really got to the full-blown lawsuit stage, but it was a claim, legal claim filed by one of our farmer employees, Carmen Nichols, and that was settled through our insurance authority, the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority, which is a risk management pool. Over 100 cities and government agencies in California come together to make this insurance pool work. And so there would be no direct investment of city funds at this point in that settlement, which ended up being, I think, $550,000. So that one is put to bed and is one less on the list. And in fact, that list is dwindling down to almost nothing at this point. Second one that was mentioned in the article is former council member Jim Hensley had filed a federal lawsuit basically expressing his feelings that his rights were violated by the other council members back in August of 2017 who had taken action to censure, not censor, but censure, C-E-N-S-U-E-R-E, Mr. Hensley for some comments and some behavior that they felt was unbecoming of a Port Hueneme council member. Part of that censure action was removing him from the mayor pro tem position and also removing all of his regional committee and board assignments. And Mr. Hensley's position was that his free speech was being restricted or limited by those actions. And again, this is all being argued and handled by the attorneys from the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority. They filed what's called a motion for summary judgment, which asked the federal judge to rule before this thing ever got down to a courtroom, is this a valid claim that should be heard in the courtroom? And the city's and the insurance authority's position was no, this case does not have merit because it is a commonly known right of an elected body to censure one of its members for conduct unbecoming. And the judge, federal judge down in LA District Court, agreed with the insurance authority attorney's arguments and said, you know, this suit should not move forward because there's no evidence that Mr. Hensley's free speech was restricted in any way, and it is a commonly known right of an elected body to censure one of their members. So far, everything has gone the city's way on that case, and the article indicated that Mr. Sam Galici, who is Mr. Hensley's attorney, intends to appeal that decision by the judge. They do have that right. So it's maybe the 8th inning now rather than the 9th inning and game over, but we feel, excuse me, very strongly that the city's legal position, the city has the strongest legal position in this case, and that the council acted within their rights when they took the action.
All council members serve on various regional boards, Animal Control, Ventura County Transportation Commission, Gold Coast Transit, many other boards. And those are at the pleasure of the council. So any three of us as a majority can appoint or remove people from these positions without cost. And we divide these positions up at the beginning of the year, every year, and proceed from there. So nobody has a guaranteed right to serve on any particular council until we, as a group, appoint the individuals to the various councils that they go to. So we don't see this going anywhere.
Yeah.
We hope, we hope him the best and well, but that we think that the appeal also should not go much further than
Right.
that.
Well, thank you both for your jurisprudence knowledge.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. One last thing, and this is nothing major, but I just saw it going on, living at the beach for a number of years. There was a tractor down there, and it was moving sand around
Yes.
in 30-mile-an-hour winds. I tried to figure that out, why he would do it. And anyway, I emailed Don, and he said that they were putting sand back towards the beach that had been blown away, and it was in piles, which we had never seen before, so
Yeah.
that hopefully they could move it out there for Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
They expect good crowds, and a lot of that, with the big waves that have been coming in and the wind blowing, a lot of the sand was on the sidewalks and in the plants and stuff, so they had to move it back, and they should be moving it back into place. Is that what you
And,
guys know?
Well, yes, and I was out again on the beach with Councilmember Gama, and we were watching that tractor work back and forth. And my first thought was, well, gosh, why can't we buy one of our own with something that he can pull along behind him to level out the beach and do this and that? And I was advised, well, the expense of that. And again, so we can buy another tractor, or maybe think about Miranda Park. I
Right,
don't think
right.
we can do both at this time. So that's just part of the juggling game that we have to play on a daily basis when we're looking at where can we get the biggest bang for the buck that we have at the time. And so, yeah, it was rather interesting to watch that tractor,
Yeah.
which is a rental.
How would you have liked to have been doing that?
Ugh.
He was out there and the
Yeah,
wind was
the wind sanded his face.
yeah, it's
It-
time
yeah.
to hunker
It
down,
was- it was
wasn't it?
something
When you
else.
left there, it's
Yeah.
time to hunker down and turn the fireplace on and everything.
Well, you know, too, we have a lot of sand that blows right onto, over the sidewalks onto the grass,
Yeah.
and it begins building up there. And gosh, you know, maybe we could dig up all the grass and remove the sand, put it back on the beach
Oh,
or
yeah.
something.
Well, we're right across the street, and you have the public sidewalk, and then our lawns. And from the sidewalk to the top of the grass now is like that, because sand buildup, it blows and it
It
gets
does.
in there, and it just gets in between the grass and just keeps moving it up
I
and
wonder
up.
if people on the Surfside condos along that entire stretch end up with sand on their porches.
Because they have very low
balconies.
yards. Yeah, they're really close, on the first floor.
Yeah, or maybe even high. I don't know how high the sand will flow.
Yeah.
Well, they took out the wall a couple years ago.
That it did.
So, got to be careful.
That it did.
Thanks, both of you, for lending your knowledge of what's going on in the city. I'm glad we have in the future some money to work with and work on all the projects that the people have longed for. And it was tough coming out of it, but I think we have a hold on it. And thank all of you for watching. And let us know if there's any other issues that you have that we should look into and get an answer for you, or a reason why something's being done or not done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.